Well, Mark, thank you for coming on the red carpet round table.
Well, it's always an honor to get on the red carpet, right?
Yes, sir. I want to dig into what attracted you to begin your acting career. What got you into this journey?
Gosh, well, I pretty much retired in 2008, and after about 6 months of trying to be my wife's best girlfriend at home, she said, you really need a place to go during the day and get out of here. So I just, I I decided to take an acting class. I thought it was something that'd be kind of cool to do, and I
Hmm.
got hooked. And and I just in Arizona, people think, well, there's not a lot of acting going on in Arizona. Arizona happens to be probably one of the best states in the country for a beginning actor to start acting. There's some great acting coaching that goes on here in Arizona, but there's a lot of it's a great place to build a resume. If you're trying to start out in LA, first you got to plan on driving 3 hours every time you go to an audition or you go to work somewhere, right? And the
Right.
competition is huge. So in Arizona, we've got Arizona State University. It's one of the largest film schools in the country, the City Poitier School of Film. And the students produce over 200 films a year. If you're going to get your degree in film, then you've got to write, direct, and produce your own short film, right? Well, they need volunteer actors for that. So it's a great place to cut your teeth in the acting world. And so that's probably the first 6 or 8 credits on my resume were acting as a volunteer actor for students.
So
And
that's
uh, and and the cool thing about that is these kids graduate and then they go on to work for production companies. So I've actually picked up work where probably the first big film I did here in Arizona, they lost an actor. And the director got all the crew together and said, okay, we've got 2 hours to get somebody here. Does anybody know an actor that fits this bill? And some great kid in the back raises his hand and he says, yeah, Mark Speno. How do you know him? Well, he acted on one of my student films, and so I got a call and said, we need an actor. Can you be here in 2 hours and stay for a week? So yeah, I like Arizona. I have no complaints about being here as an actor.
that's absolutely
Yeah,
amazing story and journey. I love hearing that, how people get into the acting and film industry and meeting friends. That's one thing a lot of people talk about. They meet people who friends, and it's not a competition. It's like you meet all the cool people that help you get
yeah,
further into the entertainment industry.
yeah, yeah. I agree with that, you know.
Absolutely amazing. I
Yeah.
want to dig into real quick because I know this was on TV, it was famous, the Waco, the aftermath.
Mhm.
And of course, you played Doug Tinker.
Uh-huh.
And how was it like being on set, and where was it filmed at? Of course, I have to ask, probably Waco, Texas, but I could be wrong. And how was the experience being on set and realizing you're playing a story that was based on a true story and an
Mhm.
environment, and how did it mess how did you handle your mental health statewide and all that stuff? Because I know it's based on a true story and a lot of people can look it up and read about it. So
Yeah.
I want to know your story and your background and how did you like playing the role and go from there?
That was such an amazing opportunity. Um, the way I tell the story is, first of all, I had an acting coach, Bill Howie. His
Hmm.
son, Steve Howie, he plays Kev the bartender on Shameless. Famous. They have a famous son. Well, he's set up an acting studio or an acting coaching studio here in Arizona. So I was with him for 4 years, and he always said, the most amazing thing you'll find about this business is serendipity. And that's, I had to look that up. I didn't know what that meant. It means happenstance, right? And to get to that point, it was about a year before Waco, before I got the audition. I'm watching, my wife and I, we like to stream a lot of movies and series, right? And at
Hmm.
that time, we were streaming Boardwalk Empire, and we were also streaming Sneaky Pete. Boardwalk Empire starred Michael Shannon, was one of the stars, and the Sneaky Pete, Giovanni Ribisi, um, was the star of Sneaky Pete,
Hmm.
right? And I'm sorry, there we go. And I remember saying to my wife, just so cool to be in this business someday, to be able to be on set with actors like that, see how they prepare and the
Hmm.
experience, and just to be able to rub elbows. And fast forward a year later, it's 5:30 in the morning, hair and makeup, and I'm sitting. Giovanni Ribisi's sitting on one side of me, and
Wow.
Michael Shannon's sitting on the other side of me. And we're drinking coffee and showing pictures of our kids, and it was. But It was filmed in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Okay.
I have an agent, Carissa Mitchell. Mitchell Talent Associates is in Albuquerque. I've been with her for about 8 years. And I get this audition, and it's for Doug Tinker of Waco. Now, I saw the first season of Waco, and David Koresh, the actor who played David Koresh, looked exactly like him. And so one of the things you do when you get an audition, you look it up. You look it up on IMDb. Who's the director, and you got to do some background work on it. And I realized Doug Tinker is a historical figure. He was a famous attorney in Texas. He was one of the defending defense attorneys for the Branch Davidians. But Tinker was only about 5'4", and he was about 200 pounds, as wide as he was tall. He was bald. He was fat. He had this big bushy beard. I normally don't have a beard. And I thought, there's no way they're going to cast me on this thing.
Right.
But he never turned down an audition. It was the casting director that actually said, no, I want to see Mark audition for this thing. And so I did the audition. I sent it in, and I thought nothing of it. They're not going to call me, but I'm happy to do it because it was the casting director, and you don't want to turn something down. And about a week later, I got the call. You're booked on set for 6 weeks on this thing. You're going to play Doug Tinker. And I remember being on set. It was actually at the wrap party, and I'm talking with the director, and I said, by the way, you chose me. I didn't look anything like Doug Tinker. What was it that had you decided to cast me? He says, well, that was the whole Waco thing took place in 1993 before the internet. He said, you probably found the only one picture of Doug Tinker on the internet, didn't you? I said, I did. He says, yeah. He said, no one knows what he looks like. So they cast all of us, according to, they just thought we'd make a good team. So it was Giovanni Ribisi was the lead defense attorney, and then me, and my good friends Matt Metallo and Eric Esparza. The three of us made a great team as far as legal counsel go, and so there we are, 6 weeks on set. Yeah,
Amazing.
it was a great experience.
Absolutely
It was
amazing. And
great experience. Yeah, it was probably the first really big thing that I did.
mhm.
Be there 6 weeks on set. So to go from Arizona, where it's mostly indie films, Arizona is a right to work state, so you don't see a lot of union films come to Arizona. So when you do work, um, mostly indie films, mostly one camera, right? Let's shoot the scene this way. Okay, now cut. Let's move the camera, do it from this side over here. And on Waco, they built the set of this Texas courtroom as a replica of the Texas courtroom. And there were 3 cameras, and each camera had 5 people assigned to it, and
Wow.
all the cameras moved. So when they said, action, there's 3 cameras around the move, and they're all moving. It's like a ballet, and you've got the focus puller, you've got the guy steering the dolly, right? You've got the guy pushing the dolly, you got the guy holding the sound boom, you've got all this, and then the director's in the other room, and he's got everything on the monitor. But and the lenses on these things are like this, so if unless you're used to it, it can be kind of intimidating at first. But it was a real big time studio movie set, and it pulled everything together for me that I'd been taught by my acting coach, who had been teaching. In fact, my acting
Hmm.
coach was George Clooney's only acting coach. So yeah, I can finally sit back and say, okay, this is what it's really like.
Right.
And so my acting coach would say, just get in there and own the room. And I never really understood what that meant. I pretended I
Until you,
did, but until I could see Giovanni Ribisi work, I could see Michael Shannon work, and I could see how they own their character. I had 6 scripts because we shot 6 episodes. They condensed it into 5. But I always read I read everybody's part going in, and so I knew what Michael Shannon's lines were. I knew what Giovanni Ribisi's lines were, and I could see where they would deviate. So you can see firsthand the choices these A-list actors make when they're presented with a script. So it was a great experience all the way around.
Amazing. And you played great. I saw you, I've seen it, and I Waco Aftermath, amazing cast, amazing story. Um,
Thank you.
and I've seen it, I saw you, and it was just you were phenomenal. You were just amazing.
Well, thank
So
you.
you're
Thank you.
very welcome. And
It was
if you mind me asking, what have you learned playing that character on set?
um well, you learn a lot about yourself as far as an actor goes, but for me, that the real learning experience was this was an historical piece,
Hmm.
and so they actually had Michael Shannon played a character named Gary Nosner, and Gary Nosner was the lead hostage negotiator with the FBI on that, and Gary Nosner went on to become the head of all hostage negotiation for the entire FBI in the United States. He was on set as a consultant. Um, and the character that Giovanni Ribisi played, Dan, God, I forget his last name, was on set being there. The gentleman who wrote the script was a professor of social studies out of back
Hmm.
east. He was there, and so being able to hang out with these people and hear about their experiences and stories on the real Waco. So it was historically correct. And when I first got the script, I thought, okay, this could be political. It's be leaning one side or another, and there's going to be a message here. And there was none of that. It was all about being historically
Amazing.
correct. And there were no heroes. There were no heroes in the story of Waco, Texas. Um, yeah. So for
Amazing.
me, when you asked about learning, learning some history was part of the experience I'll always remember.
Well, thank you for sharing that your journey as being on set, and you taught me something. I really thought it was filmed in Texas, but now you taught me it was filmed
Yeah.
in New Mexico.
Yeah.
So the audience can know that by watching that. Anyways, round applause. The whole set, the whole crew, amazing, and thank you for sharing your side of the story on set,
You
like
bet.
that. Um, Now, I want to talk about any other upcoming films that you're allowed to talk about if you haven't signed, or what is there anything you can talk about?
Can't talk about it. No. I've got a film coming up called Solitary. It shoots in New
Hmm.
Mexico. I'll be out there in 3 or 4 weeks to shoot that. And right now, most of my work lately has been commercials.
Right.
So those are pretty busy. And commercials tend to be more lucrative, I think, than film, or they can be.
Hmm.
And what's interesting about commercials is, Americans now spend more time on social media than they do watching television. And so
Yes,
the
we do.
majority of commercials I've been shooting have been for internet and social media.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's one
Yeah,
way to get yourself out there.
that's how you get out there, and
Yeah.
and you keep working. The
Hmm.
goal is just keep working. You know,
That's true.
yeah.
I'm gonna ask you because kind of going back a little bit with Waco and everything that's going on in your career so far. Did you ever thought you see yourself now, and if you could sit down, just pause for a minute and just think, and was like, wow, I never thought I would see myself on set on Waco Aftermath with all those actors and A-list actors and continue the journey now. Did you ever thought as yourself as Mr. Mark, did you ever thought, wait a minute, I'm actually on set with these people? Am I actually doing this? Did you ever thought about?
No, no, it never occurred to me. That's where serendipity comes in, right? I mean, I'm in Arizona. I'll pick up another student film. I'll pick up another TV commercial. I have some co-star roles, in
Hmm.
New Mexico and LA and Utah. Um, yeah. So
And your
these,
family probably never expected yourself to be on a big screen like that, and
yeah.
that just to me it gives me chills because it's a testimony about it doesn't matter what our age is, keep going, because you never know the people we run into.
Oh, listen, I was 56 years old when I took my first acting class. That was 10 years ago, you know. But
Right
so
there, you just said that's a testimony right there because You said you can correct me, 56
Yeah,
years old, right? And that's a testimony to me because it tells you're telling other people, ladies and gentlemen, that hey, if I can do it, you can do it. So that right there is emotional testimony that I'm hearing from you because you retired. You could have just easily said, you know what? I'm done. Why am I going to do something else? But you were like, you know what? Let me do it. Let me give it a shot and go to auditions. And then voila, here you are. And I keep bringing this up because the Waco aftermath is a big deal, and still is. And I saw you on set, and I saw everybody on set. Everybody on there was absolutely amazing.
yeah, yeah. Well, so talk about something cool to do. Um, but as far as your friends and family don't know,
Hmm.
some actors they book a job and they like to put up on their social media, booked it, and they brag. And I always kind of laugh about that because first of all, your A-listers never do that. You never see Leonardo DiCaprio post on Instagram, booked it, right? But what's cool is if you can refrain from doing that, say nothing about it. And for Waco, my couple of my close friends knew because I was out of town, right? And I don't tell a lot of people I'm out of town because my wife's home alone. I don't want that to right for six
Right.
weeks. Um, but to say nothing, and all of a sudden a year later it comes out and you have friends calling you, hey, I didn't know you did. Oh, that's right, I did that. Of course I did it, damn it. But no, oh, Waco. Oh God, I forgot I did that. Yeah, yeah, okay, right. But that's to me, that's more exciting to do than bragging on social media that I booked
Hmm.
it. Here I am, and this right. So my challenge to actors, I say this to new actors, if you can hold off on talking about it until it comes out, it takes discipline, right? But if it's going to end up on social media while you're shooting or before it comes out, let other people do that for you. Let them brag about it and put it on social media and
Hmm.
tag you and do that. But there's also some risk there too when you start putting things out on social media before something comes out because you're signing NDAs. They don't want you putting out. They want to control the narrative before a film comes out.
Right, right.
So I just, as a rule, I try to contain my excitement until it comes out, and then it's a big surprise, and then you can act like God. You know what? I guess I worked so much I forgot I did that, which is not true, right? But it's just part of the fun.
Right.
Uh,
I gotta ask, just a curiosity, did your wife know you were going to be on set?
my wife.
Yeah, did you keep it a secret that you
Oh
were?
well, I can't keep a secret. No, she helped me with the auditions. I mean, I yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Some people they have their family members, they don't say anything until they see you on TV and they're like, wait a minute, you were on, wait, isn't that you? Wait, wait, wait. And you're like, yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you or something like that.
Well, it'd be kind of hard not to tell your wife if you're going to be out of town for 6 weeks. She didn't know where you was. But I've had some commercials hit on on local television and
Hmm.
and a lot of times this stuff doesn't come out for several months. So you forget you do it, or you just it becomes no longer part of the conversation. Then it comes out and she'll see it and
Right.
hey, you're on TV and oh, you know,
Um, Now for you, what's the best advice you ever heard and received in this industry?
man. I think I mentioned it earlier when my coach Bill Howie said, "Get in there and own the room,
Mm,
own your character."
that's deep.
And yeah, and so everybody's when you hear that for the first time, you would assume maybe you think you know what it means. Um, but I think that's when you cross for me when you cross that threshold where you feel like you're really acting. It's when you take control of your role, you take control of your character, and you deliver it your way. Or if you're coordinating with the director, right? You're collaborating with the director, but coming up with something cool and really taking charge. So you're not just memorizing and delivering lines, but you're bringing your whole being, you're bringing your emotion to the table, you're bringing your character, you're bringing your backstory to the table. Um, and you can talk about it and practice it, but it's not until you that feeling that you have and when it's actually happening. Um, when I was in high school, I was part of a barbershop quartet, and we used to go into the men's room because it was all tile, and we'd sing. I'm going somewhere with this, and we'd sing, and when you hit a major chord, the room vibrates, right?
Hmm.
You hear an opera singer, they can break a glass, right? It
Right.
resonates, and I guess it's that feeling when you hit that major chord in a tiled room and it vibrates through your whole body. And I think when you land a character the way that it's the way you've come to do the character, and it's pleasing to the director, and it ends up not ending up on the editor's floor. Um, Great feeling.
Wow. That's so deep. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing
I
that.
wish it happened more often, but when it happens,
Hmm.
you never forget it.
That's so true. And my follow-up question, what's the most pivoted moment in your career so far?
Could have given me a list of questions before we started. I might have had a faster answer for you. I you know, Ryochi, I've had so many pivotal moments, so many
Hmm.
things that I wake up and I'm experiencing something new, and I never thought that would hit me. I you know I I've always been into working out, and I never would have thought I'd end up being a lead fitness trainer for Fitbit. You know, um, and these all came through acting. So every day is a new experience. Every day is a new character. Every audition brings new opportunity,
Hmm.
and I find that some people get into the business because they want to be famous or because they want to become rich, which is not the reason to get in the business or stay in the business.
Right.
It's just keep acting. Just
Hmm.
that's all I want to do is just keep acting. And
And
people say, "Well, what's your favorite character?" It doesn't matter. A challenging character. How about a challenging character? Something I've never done before, and experience feelings and emotions you've never felt before. It brings depth,
hmm.
to life's experience. So
Amen.
I just love it always.
That's absolutely, for me personally, I see you playing a detective role. I really do.
Okay?
Um, I don't know, I just this sounds weird for me saying this, but you have that police detective face and that
Yeah,
mind, that the hair and the beard. I don't know. I just maybe because I'm watching too many police shows, but
yeah. You watch so many police shows, right, Ochi? Yeah, you do. Well, okay. So you got to know you got to know what your lane is, right?
hmm.
And so I am. I played the head of the FBI for J.J. Abrams in Duster. That's
Hmm.
out on HBO right now. But I tend to be the younger grandpa, the older dad, the attorney, the judge, the detective. In fact, the one I'm in New Mexico in a few weeks, I'm playing a corrections officer who torments, one of the inmates. So yeah, so I guess that's kind of my lane.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was about to talk about that your role with the FBI, all the roles you've done. But I've read so much about information about you. You've done so much in your career, and the roles you've done, and starting age. You said you were starting, and you talked about, you never probably never thought you see yourself here, being on the sets and meeting all the actors and and actresses and A-list celebrities and being on commercials and going to New Mexico and the list goes on and on and
Yeah,
on. And it's just to me, this keeps coming back to my brain. It's just passion and not giving up.
yeah,
And that's what keeps coming back to me. That every time I hear you speak and your motivation and and your empowerment of you as a Mark's empowerment of being a personal trainer, Fitbit, and all this stuff. You've all this, all this stuff that you're doing, and you said that you never thought you see yourself being here,
yeah,
and thanking Fitbit, being a personal trainer, and to me, I just look at that as a motivation of keep going, and to me, it's like, if you mind me saying this, is like if you start over in your life, it's like you're a child. You're being at different
Yeah,
characters that you never thought you'd be doing.
it keeps you going, you know.
Hmm.
Um, in one thing that I've discovered in this business is there's no room for negativity
Amen.
because it's everywhere.
Yes.
You could all there's fault with everything. There's so much BS in this business. I could spend my whole day thinking, well, that's bullshit. Excuse me, that's BS, and that was wrong, and that was unfair. That's unfair. Just and I could fill up. We could do a whole podcast about all the unfair stuff that we. It doesn't do you any good.
Mm-mm.
All it does is give you a reason why maybe I'm make second guess why you're here, and but it takes positivity because it's full of rejection.
Hmm.
I've heard someone say that if you're landing 1 out of 15 auditions, network auditions out of LA, you're a working actor. So okay, so you're being rejected, 14 times before you get work, and you put your heart and soul into those 14 auditions, and that's if you're a decent actor. Mark Ruffalo talks about he had over 600 auditions before he was cast first,
I
and
know.
you can't do that. You can't be in that business and have staying power and get anywhere if you just allow the negativity to fill you up and to slow you down.
That's so true.
You
Uh, I like that. That's so
Yeah,
amazing.
man. Yeah.
And
So, and I guess that's one of the things I like about all the camaraderie in the business because you're surrounded by everybody who's trying to stay positive.
yeah, that's
And,
why I list,
you know,
that's why I love what I'm doing,
yeah,
and interviewing actors and, hearing their stories and backgrounds of what got them into the entertainment industry and and the passion and the positivity and the love for each other and supporting each other. Doesn't matter what state we live in. We all are family. That is
we
for
are.
sure. That's for sure. I want to ask you
We
if you
we
could go
have that
back.
we have this common thread. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. If you could go back in time to a 10-year-old Mark, what would you say to yourself?
In terms of being an actor,
What would you say to
it,
yourself if you could go back and if you're 10 years old,
mhm.
yourself again, what would you say? Or is there anything, I know this weird to say this, but was there anything you would do differently in your life? Or what would you say to yourself? Or what would you say? I just want just curious.
Well, I think anybody who says I wouldn't do anything differently, I don't. Number one, I don't believe it. I think we live with
Amen.
regrets. I think we live with regrets. I think we all live with experiences. I wouldn't trade any of my experiences because somehow that makes you who you are,
Hmm.
right? And you need those. You need to have your butt kicked. You need to have right. You need to have wins. You need to have losses. And so to go back and do it differently, there's a ton of things I do differently in retrospect. But at the time, you know, I guess you're just being a 10-year-old. I guess
Yeah.
to do it over again, I wish I'd gotten started in acting earlier. I'm 60, I'll be 66 here pretty soon. And I'd like to think I got another 20 years. I don't have 20 years ahead of me to go back and fine tune my craft and you know,
You
so
you don't look like you're gonna be 66. I'm sorry, you don't.
yeah, thank you.
You really
Yeah.
don't. I'm being honest, you really don't.
Well, I'll tell you, this beard is starting to convince some people maybe I am, but I generally don't have the beard. But yeah, I got this Santa Claus beard going. So um,
Maybe, if you ever came back on my show, and I want you to come back, please do. But if you shave your beard, that's when probably we like, oh, you don't look 66.
it's a different look. Yeah. Right about now, the dogs here at home are starting to bark at me. So they don't recognize me. Yeah,
Maybe that's a sign, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a sign. That's a sign. My last question is, what's your message to any upcoming actors, especially in Arizona and across all 50 states, who want to become an actor?
A dear friend famous photographer, years ago once told me, if you want to be an actor, act. And I didn't know what that meant. I thought, well, what the hell does that mean? You want to be an actor, act. You can't act if you're an actor. You don't get work as an actor unless you know how to act. It's the chicken and the egg thing. What does that mean? It means you start acting. No matter where you are in the United States, there's a local community theater. I wish I had time to do theater. Some of the best when I was on Waco, by the way, almost everybody was from theater background. Michael Shannon, David Constable, John Hugenacher, Michael Luoye played Hamilton on Broadway for 2 years. These all theater actors. I wish I had that. So you can do that in your own hometown. Every town has a community theater. Almost every town has an agency, an acting agency, because there are local commercials that need to be shot. So I think no matter where you are, you're going to be able to find a talent agent. And then just start acting. There's a local film school, even a junior college with a film class. Just start acting. And you're going to make some real crap starting out. Get it out of the way. Do it, right? Put some real junk on the books. Get it out of the way so you can say you did it. I remember Michael Caine. I don't think it was the Oscars. It might have been the Emmys, but he got up and gave his speech, and he's walking away with a big trophy, and he says, "Well, I've made a lot of crap." So I nothing wrong with it. Do it, get it out of the way, watch yourself, learn how you do it. Um, right now I've got a tripod. This is my iPhone's on the tripod, and I've got a little microphone, and you start taping yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the most rewarding things in this business, first of all, when I took my first acting class, I got up and I saw myself on tape, and I realized, wow, I am really bad at this. Right? And it's because what you think you're projecting isn't what your audience perceives.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a disconnect. So I think
Right.
that the challenge in acting is you have something you want to convey. Does your audience believe it?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a huge gap between what I thought I was conveying with the audience and what they were really seeing. And so to me, that was the challenge. So bridging that gap, narrowing that gap,
Wow.
time, and it takes time to do that. How many times you watch TV and you think, I could do that. That guy looks natural. I could, acting. It's hard, man. It's really a craft, and it takes training, and you got to do it over and over and over again. And to get the job, you got to audition for the job, which means you need practice auditioning. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the reasons why you don't want to. There are very few times when you should be turning an audition down. They're all opportunities to get practice and fine tune your craft.
That's
So that would
absolutely
be
it.
my. Don't let anything stop you. But you don't have to come to LA. You don't have to go to New Mexico. Right where you're at is a great place to start.
Amen. So true.
Amen, brother.
That is so true. Well, Mark, thank you again for coming on. And
My pleasure.
I really can't wait to speak with you again. I look forward with speaking with you and have you back on and talk about your next upcoming projects and all that stuff.
Likewise. Thanks for having me. I'd love to come back.
Yeah, thank you again, and let's keep supporting each other.
Great. Let's do that.
All
And
right,
great questions, by the way. I'm glad we connected today.
yeah, thank you so much. And like I said, it means a lot. I love meeting people and and knowing fellow actors in this entertainment industry and having them come on my show and hearing their stories and their past roles and their upcoming roles and in depth of what got them into this and their passion and everything. It's about passion, it's about positivity, it's not giving up, and
Mhm.
that is everything I've been hearing and the chills I'm getting from you about, your age that you start from. And that's a testimony that I love hearing. It's because
Mhm.
it's a testimony that it's saying it doesn't matter what age you start. And you're
Well,
about to
turn
turn,
on the TV. They got every age on TV,
that's what
right?
I'm saying. And you're about to turn 66, which I don't believe that because meaning there's no way you're turning 66 because you look
Okay.
so young.
Well, let me tell you when I'm going to get out of the business. Is when I get booked on a commercial in a hospice commercial. All right. Then it's time to get out. Right. Just play
Not
some
yet.
some
You
dying
have
patient at an old folks home. Okay, now it's time, Mark.
you
You
have a
think
long,
maybe?
to be honest with you, you have a long ways to go, and I'm being 100% honest with you. You
Yeah,
don't
thank
look
you.
66 years old. You look so young and healthy, and keep it up. I'm so proud of you, and we'll definitely stay in touch, and I can't wait to have you back.
Great. Thank you, brother.
You're welcome. I'll talk to you soon.
Ryochi, have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.